Hey everyone, I have 7 new journals here that I'm going to do a really quick walkthrough of. I like to do them for my Etsy shop. I think it's always better if you can see what's really in there. I'm not a good picture taker, and I feel this is a better way to show you what they're really like inside. So I will timestamp this video so that if you are interested in a certain one, you can see it. And then if you're here for inspiration, I really hope you get some. 4 of them are just naked journals, but maybe some of the papers are different than you use or you haven't used in a while. So let me start with my little Santa Claus one. I'll start with the 2 small ones and we'll get to it. I'm going to move the camera down a little bit where you can see a little better and get started. Okay, so my first one is the Santa Claus. These are December dailies, and I have them wrapped with twine and eyelet. I wrap it around twice, do a loop, and then put the little jingle bells through the loop. And that's the enclosure. The spine has been reinforced with muslin that I have hand stamped and inked it to give it a more grungy rustic feel. A wooden tag that can be used as a gift tag, has a 2 in the front, clipped on with a bow pin through an eyelet, has some seam binding that's also been hand stamped with script stamp that can be used for your bookmark. These little books have been made from greeting cards. Here's the back of it. They're kind of shiny on the outside, so I'm sorry about the glare. The inside I have pocket. I have handmade tags, rustic looking tags from tea-dyed cardstock that I've stamped on this one. The insides are covered with vintage French book page. I have a little bit of my homemade tape. A dashboard starts the front with some post-it notes. I tried to coordinate the post-it notes with the color of the book. So the front ones on this one are green. The back ones are red. In the back pocket, there are more tags. Another handmade tag that I've stamped, splatter painted. And this one is also tea-dyed cardstock. Little cutout that could be a tag or writing spot. The pockets are made from a junk mail envelope. The dashboard is not counted in the number of pages that are in the book. Also, by the time this video goes up, I will have all of these listed in my Etsy shop. I think only a couple are right now, but that will be corrected. So on the inside, on the first day, there is stapled a little notepad. This is tea-dyed calculator tape, so it can just be removed. Scrapbook paper. There's number 2. This is calendar that's been splatter painted with red and gold flecks. Tea-dyed paper. And this is crinkled paper that I've scrunched up and sprayed it so it has random markings. This is number 5. Number 6 is a pocket. And the numbers, I've just done different things. This one is stamped. This is a cutout. Used a little bit more of distress tape. This is the envelope that comes with the greeting card. And there are a couple more tags in here that are handmade. This one has been embossed, and then I went over the top with some green distress ink. Stamping, stencil, tea-dyed paper. Sometimes I made the numbers really small. Tea-dyed paper. This one this is packaging. Has a little flip if you want to clip in some notes or receipts or pictures or reminders. More scrapbook paper. These are die cuts. The little paper bag is also not counted in the page count. And inside there are more cutouts. The other, more die cuts. The other one with the reindeer is the same layout as far as papers. This is a little fussy cut, stamping, rusty paper clip holds on the number 20. This can be taken off and written on the back. Another stamp. Typewriter, this tea dye, stenciling. The other half of the envelope has 2 more homemade tags. And this one is on tea-dyed paper. Pretty tea-dyed paper. And this one has been embossed and some white ink rubbed over the top. There is some glitter in this. I have die cut these numbers, so there may be a little bit of glitter throughout. Another fussy cut, writing spot, and a pocket for 24. These are the negatives to some of the die cuts. A little bit of book page, scrapbook paper, more of the crinkled distress spray, another one of the calendar pages with the splatters. Isn't that pretty? I love that green. On this tab for 29, I used heavy cardstock, did an eraser to make the number 29 and 30, tea-dyed paper, cardstock, and took a hole punch, punched out the number 31. This is scrapbook paper, and Happy New Year. The back of the book with the dashboard and the red post-it notes. So that is the Christmas Santa. Oh, I was wanting to show you also the little seam binding. Just works as your bookmark. Can move it wherever you're at. Okay, so that's really Santa Claus. And here's the reindeer. Isn't he cute? Same thing. It has a staple binding with the muslin that's been distress inked and stamped. Little wooden, this one says it's the most wonderful time of the year. Little wooden tag with a ball pin. This is some vintage apron that is the bookmark on this one. A little bit of distress tape that's, actually I made this one kind of blue, had some blue in it. So I thought it worked good with the little reindeer. Same thing, inside is the vintage, French vintage book page and the junk mail envelope. This one has been writ dyed with green and blue. Another homemade tag from tea-dyed paper. Dashboard on this one is blue and green post-it notes. 2 cutouts in the back for tags. I thought the colors matched well with the blues and the greens. And the bookmark to flip down wherever you want it. The first page on this one has a clip-on, a rusty staple clip, paper clip. And this one is some of my homemade tickets. It looks like it folded the edge. And I thought it was really clever because I stamped 2 in the middle of this one, 5s in the middle of this one. But they make great writing spot. Plus I sewed across the top so you can tear them off and, take your notes with you. Scrapbook paper, the number 1. Again, this is the sparkly die cut. So very possible there's some of that in here. Little printed word, stamping. I believe this is a pocket on number 3. Tea-dyed paper, stamping, tea-dyed tab on, this is blue tea-dyed paper, Doesn't look very blue. It actually turns more of a grayish blue, but it's really pretty. Number 6, some stamping. In the envelope, there's 2 homemade tags, a tea-dyed, splatter painted and stamped, and then an embossed with some distress ink, stamping on the 8, the negative die cut on the 9. This paper is hibiscus tea, and I know that it doesn't look like it has a color, but it's kind of almost a grayish color. Hibiscus is really red, and so it surprised me that they turned out this color. And then I took some scrapbook paper, hole punched the number 10, and then used it as a stencil for this page. More scrapbook paper, calendar that's been splatter painted with red and gold, stamping. This is tea-dyed dot paper, stenciling, packing paper, die cuts. The little bag on this one also has cutouts, upside down cutouts. And I've put some washi tape on the inside of this one because I couldn't seem to get my staples right. So I put a little washi tape, another cutout, again with the blue and greens. Die cut on the 17, little pocket on the 18, and this one, and another homemade tag. This one's been tea dyed. Some stenciling, more calendar with the splatter painting, and scrapbook paper, a fussy cut, and this is the other half of the hibiscus tea, another fussy cut, the other half of the envelope with our sparkly 25, and then I also did a little fussy cut 25, another handmade tag from tea-dyed paper, and then I've just done some stamping and inking. Stencils on these two. This is the blue tea-dyed. See the stenciling on it? Isn't it pretty? Had leaves on it. This one is a stamp. Calendar page. Tea-dyed paper. And New Year's Eve. I did some of my fancy drawing on that one. That's supposed to be confetti. Stencil, scrapbook paper, Happy New Year, and the back of the dashboard. So those are the 2 December dailies. And the measurements and the page counts for these are listed in the Etsy shop. These are the naked journals, and I'm going to show you one of them, and they're all the same layout as far as paper. I'll just flip through the last 3 really quickly. They're all made from fabric and bubble mailers, so they have a really soft, squishy texture, good sound. They have fabric on the outside and the inside. This one's more of a spring. The binding on this one is kind of a turquoise color. I thought matched the flowers. Inside is kind of bicycles and a really pretty sky blue. First page on all starts with a vellum. This one is a lined tea-dyed vellum. Very heavy cardstock. This is the only pocket in here. Very pretty cardstock, and it's been tea-dyed. All of the all of the scrapbook paper in these have been tea-dyed. Coloring book, lots of good writing, a brown bag, and I wanted to stamp this so bad, but I was trying to really make a naked journal. I also thought these would be cool to have lace pockets or doily pockets, but again, I'm leaving this for whoever wants to decorate their way. This is a tea-dyed page that came like from a gardening book. And the other side of it has holes. And I left those like if you want to hang charm dangles or something, weave in some yarn or eyelash trim, some kind of fancy. Then I have tea-dyed elementary paper. Love this paper. More tea-dyed scrapbook paper, and I've put it in kind of wonky just to give it a different look. This is tea-dyed paper. Packing paper. French vintage. This actually might be antique ledger page. And like I say, all of them have the same thing. They just might look a little different. Tea-dyed scrapbook paper. Blue tea dyed paper, and it has markings on it that look like leaves, and I'm not going to be able to get them to show, but it really is pretty paper. It's really dark around the edges, gives a really grungy look, very pretty. French antique book page, rag paper, very pretty. Lots of foxing. I didn't stain that. That was the way it came. Very grungy. This is the hibiscus tea that looks more like grayish brown than the color of the actual tea. Tea-dyed paper. I've put in a beautiful picture from a catalog that I thought was really didn't fit all of the vintage papers, so I used a little sanding block and sanded it to make it look kind of worn. And here's the picture on the inside. It's still showing shiny, but here it's very distressed looking. Have long ribbon in the center. And I don't know if you have heard me say before, but I do that because I feel like I get my binding very tight and I don't want it to try to pull through. So I think that the ribbon helps it not do that. And then here are the wax threads. I leave them long in case you want to add your own beads or charms. So here is the back side of all of those pages. This one you might be able to see the stencil of the leaves a little bit. More tea-dyed scrapbook paper. This is the other side of the French journal. Tea-dyed. Oh, I love this elementary paper. It has the best texture and sound. Here's the other half of the gardening book. Pak Choi. Now, I did not distress these. I did tea-dye these, but I didn't use the sander on these. The other half of the bag, brown bag, tea-dyed paper. Oh, tea-dyed coloring book paper. And here's the other half of the scrapbook paper that's been tea-dyed with little birdhouse. And the end of the journal is the vellum. So that is, and I also done a lot of crazy sewing on the outside of these. I sewed around them sometimes 3 or 4 times. This one, it has been sewn 3 times. There's an orange, a turquoise blue, and a yellow. So don't think I'm crazy when you see it like wow, she sewed this. I left all the threads. I did sew it that many times on purpose. Okay, so that's the first one. I'm going to quickly skip through these. I used orange seam binding on this one, orange ribbon, and the sewing on this one is turquoise, and I think that's kind of a rust color on that. The inside of this one is a very soft yellow feel, puffy, pillowy feel. Same vellum, the striped vellum, tea-dyed. This is really heavy cardstock. And I did sew around the first page with the pocket. That's all the sewing that's on the inside. But I did leave the strings on that as well. Tea-dyed coloring book. Here's the bag. The gardening page that's been tea-dyed. Elementary paper. Scrapbook paper. Hibiscus tea paper. Packing paper. Here's the vintage French journal or journal ledger, my word, French ledger on this one. I love the stenciling on those ledgers. And some of the ledgers were really long, and I couldn't bring myself to cut it. So you'll see that there's a flip on those that are long, like this. I just flipped it over where you could do a tuck. You wouldn't lose all that beautiful ledger writing. I love it so much. More tea-dyed scrapbook paper. Oh, now you can really see the stenciling on this blue tea-dyed. Look at the leaves on that and how dark it is around the edges. So pretty. There's the rag paper, the French. This rag paper is a little different. It almost feels like it has something else in it other than just rags, but it's rag paper. A lot of foxing, grungy on this. The hibiscus tea dyed, and there is some stenciling on this. Very light. And here is our center picture. Very pretty. Little cottage. Lots of greenery. The long ribbon and the wax thread. More tea dye. Hibiscus. Rag paper. The blue tea dye. Look at all that. Isn't that pretty? Tea dyed scrapbook. The other half of the ledger. Packing paper. Tea dyed scrapbook. This is the one that I made kind of wonky and on purpose, by the way. Tea dyed elementary paper. The other half of the gardening book. There's the holes again that you can hang things from. The bag. The coloring book has a lot of great markings on that. That tea dye looks so pretty. And these are all grungy. So there's your pocket on that one. There's birds. So pretty. And the tea dyed vellum. There's a lot of grungy in these books. They're not, and lots of threads. Even though they're naked, I had to make them grungy like I normally do everything else. This one is green and dark blue and turquoise and yellow. It has 4 threads around it. The seam binding, it's bound with kind of green wax thread, and the ribbon is a blue. The inside is a very vibrant green fabric. This has tea-dyed vellum, a heavier vellum, and it has butterflies in it. It's very, very grungy and wrinkly. Here is the pockets. There's like green leaves. This is scrapbook paper. And the inside of it looks like music paper and kind of reminds me of gardening. Has some, well, here's one of those watering buckets. Tea-dyed color book. Paper bag. Here's the gardening page that's been tea-dyed. A lot of grungy tea-dye. This is elementary paper. Our wonky scrapbook paper that's been tea-dyed. I believe this one is, I'm not sure if that one's, I think this is Rit dye. It's kind of got an orangey tone to it. Packing paper. Here's our vintage French ledger. More tea-dyed scrapbook paper. The blue tea-dyed paper. And there are some markings on this one, but they're very light. The edges all look very grungy. Here's our French ragbook paper. Hibiscus paper. And the hibiscus paper was kind of a letdown because it kind of just looks like gray. I was really hoping for more. Tea-dyed paper and our roughed up catalog page. This one is like one of those clay pots. They were called pickle jars. My mother had a whole bunch of them. Isn't that pretty? Looks like lemongrass or something. Oh, dwarf cattails. Okay. And the other side. Boy, this blue tea is so pretty. scrapbook tea dyed. The other side of the French ledger. Packing. I'm pretty sure this is a Rit dye because it kind of has an orange tone to it. Scrapbook tea dyed elementary. Here's your tabs for the gardening page. And when this tea dyed was dried, it was laid on a grid. So it kind of has the lines on it. It looks so pretty. And here's the other side of the cardstock. Birds and just lots of outdoor. Looks like there's a little torn, like it's torn, and there's music page underneath. I thought that was really pretty. And the back of your vellum. There's your back of your book. Okay. And last on the knitted journals, this one has 2 rounds of sewing. There is a maroon, kind of like this, and an orange rust color. The binding on this one is kind of a coffee dye or coffee colored wax thread. And the inside is kind of the same color as the other one. It's kind of this color, maybe a light orangish tan. I know that's probably not even a color. Ribbon, lots of circles. The inside is a beautiful maroon, very soft fabric. First vellum page is tea dyed, very crinkly. Here's the scrapbook page that's been sewn with the pockets. This one has a rooster and a little bee. Some coloring book, tea dyed coloring book. Here's our bag. The tea dyed gardening page. Elementary paper. Scrapbook paper. Tea dyed paper. Packing paper. Here's the French ledger. And this does have lines, but they're very light. A lot of beautiful coloring around the edge there. Scrapbook paper, tea dyed. Here's some more of the blue tea dye. There's some real pretty markings in this one. Kind of looks like one of them plants that you blow on and make a wish. What are they called? Is it a dandelion? I don't know. The ragbook paper. Lots of good grunge on that. Here you can really see the gray on that hibiscus paper. Hoping you can tell because it's really grungy gray and a little brown. Kind of strange. Good markings. Tea dye. Here's our scuffed up page. Magazine. This one is so pretty. Looks like a little creek maybe. And an old building. Very pretty. Tea dyed paper. Hibiscus. Rag book. Blue tea. More tea dyed. The other half of the ledger that I just folded over because I look at that beautiful aging around it. Packing paper. Tea dyed scrapbook paper. That's the wonky one. And elementary paper. Here's the other half of our gardenings. Again, you can hang stuff, sew stuff in. Our bag. Tea dye coloring page. Here's the back of our pretty scrapbook paper with the pocket. It's more of a yellow. I love the markings on this one. And, of course, the vellum. And again, this paper is really, the fabric is really, really soft. You can see the sewing on the inside better. The orange and the maroon. So there are the naked journals. There are 4 of them. They'll probably be listed together. And I'll show the outsides kind of thing. And I just wanted to add on the naked journals, even though I didn't put anything in them, I told you it was kind of hard for me because I really wanted to add some lace doilies to the inside. I am going to include a few things with them. For sure, these things will be there. Like with this one, I will probably include this doily so that if you want to make a pocket on the inside kind of thing, you can glue it down. I'm also going to put in one of these cute, I just love these tiny little doilies. This one's green. I think it would be cool as one of the charms hanging, you know, from here. Or again, I have tea-dye paper that has the holes at the bottom. You could always reinforce and put a dangle. So each one will have 2 doilies. And when I said reinforce the holes, I'm also going to include some reinforcement holes, and I will distress ink them. These are, but it's hard to see. So there'll be 10 of those. And then the papers that are in the journals, like I said, there's scrapbook papers in each one. There may only be one piece, but some of the 12 by 12s that I cut off the strip, I'm going to include that with your things if you want to make clusters or whatever. Could be a strip like that, could be one that looks like this. And I just think it's neat, has neat writing. You could always cut out the countryside or, you know, the little hearts and do things with those. Those will be included with the naked journals, just so you know what they are and what my thoughts were behind them. And here's my pride and joy. This is my autumn journal. Has a little clip-on cluster on the outside with a little metal piece, fabric. This is vintage lace, burlap, and some more fabric. The outside has an orange binding. Again, there's bubble mailers inside, and I've sewn around this one before I sewed on the back, so the middle of it kind of puffs up a little bit. I have burlap and a fabric, 2 different fabrics on the front. There is 2 lines of sewing. I believe they're the same color on this one, kind of a rust color. The inside is the softest, fabric. It's very soft, kind of a velour feeling. The front page is a dashboard, so this is acetate. In the front, I have just glued on some, this is not sewn, it's sewn to each other. It says welcome fall fabric. Note from the bookmaker, this book belongs to, and a really pretty soft fabric. Pocket, again, I've left all my threads. The threading on these pockets are really pretty. It's a variegated metallic. This is a stencil tea-dyed paper. Beautiful, beautiful. The texture, the sound. Junk mail envelope that I have stamped and tried not to color, but I did. I colored it with my watercolor pencils. Inside the pocket is a pocket. Probably doesn't make much sense. Been embossed, and it looks like it's made from an envelope, a brown envelope. I didn't make this. I made the tag inside, but I didn't make this pocket. And it's a fabric tag with a little, some tea-dyed file folder that's been stamped, eyelash trim, some twine, sari silk as the tag, writing spot on the back. Again, I've left all the threads, all the things, a little altered playing card. This one is some of the, I printed on labels, sticky labels, and put them on this. And again, this has been embossed. It's kind of hard to see, but there are pumpkins embossed in this fabric. So again, this was a tea-dyed junk mail envelope. Beautiful watercolor looking scrapbook paper. Other side of the envelope, it's been stamped. Inside has part of the envelope that's been stamped and glued to some packing paper to give it some stability as a writing spot. Jelly printing paper. This is coffee dyed paper. I don't know. I think the red, I didn't coffee dye this paper, but I think the red from the little lines bled into it, and it's so pretty. It gave it such a beautiful color. This is antique onion skin paper that has a French document on it. been numbered. This book is all about the papers. There are so many old vintage papers in this book. I love it. I have a rusty hairpin with some sparkly eyelash trim clipped onto a beautiful napkin. Very pretty lace. This napkin is it's fused to, I think it's like a meat packing paper. It's not the same as freezer paper. It's a little different. You can actually write on this, and I've sewn around it and clipped it over the edge. Again, this has been rusted. Most of the things that are in here have been rusted, I believe. This is an old, it's not antique, but it's a vintage railroad bond. Isn't it beautiful? It's green, has lots of stamping on the back. 1967, October 13th. Lots of stampings. And I think they cut these holes. I don't know why they cut the holes, but it's so cool. So cool. This is an original. Not so neat looking. I love it. Scrapbook paper. Little pocket. This is actual stickers that came with this scrapbook collection. And so if you can tell, there are 3 different ones. These are 3 different lines. You can put them all together, or you can use them as, page edges. But there are 3 separate ones in that. There's a little bit of ruffled edge. This is the French antique ledger. No, I'm not sure it's antique. I know it's vintage French ledger. Okay. This is our interactive flip page. Oh, this rag book paper is so beautiful. It has such pretty boxing on it. French rag book paper. Onion skin paper. I have sewn in a place where you can put your pictures. This is like from a photo album, and I've just sewn around it. Left all the strings again. Elementary dyed paper. Love this tea dyed paper. Little cluster with a leaf on it. It says pumpkin. This page is one. Oh, I didn't fill this pocket, but it has another pocket up there. And these are all writing spots, fabric writing spots from a tea dyed folder. And you can use these fabric flips, cut them and use them as make clusters throughout your journal. And these are paper bags that have been stamped, inked, and stenciled. And there are 4 pockets total. The 4th pocket I didn't put anything in. Because of the way I have the, all the fabrics, it really wouldn't have shown. But here's your 4th pocket up top. Just like that. And I have stamped all of these bags. They didn't come this way. So that's how I had it. And I didn't fill this because of it really would have covered up my little flip there. There's that page of flips and flaps, I guess, huh? Back of the scrapbook paper. Oh, this is tea-dyed wax paper. Tea-dyed paper that's been stenciled. This has 2 flips. This is tea-dyed file folder that I've done some inking on. This is scrapbook paper. Some vintage book page. This is from a doily that I've tea-dyed. This is German dictionary page. And I've just made some fun writing spots. This is now, no, this was wrapping paper, I believe, that I laminated one side so you can write on the back, but looks like money. So there's like 70 bucks tucked right there. Have the burlap on each pocket. These pockets run all the way to the bottom. I didn't ink below each one, so they are long pockets. Very pretty. This is file folder that I use distress inks, stenciled, has eyelash trim, 3 different kinds of fibers at the top. Wonderful writing spot. This is a printed digital by Laura Spicer. Her link will probably be below. It's called Tater Bear. She has beautiful digitals. Isn't this so pretty on that lake? And it's a nice writing spot. And that is how deep that back pocket is. The inside, this is the center of the signature with our clips. Lots of good writing spot. Our ribbon is kind of brown. We have the long wax threads for to add your own charms. And I have run crinkled seam binding through the eyelets on this side. On this side, I've put a fabric cluster with a homemade charm, and I hid my Crafted by Christy charm back here. But I did think it was pretty because the back of this charm, I did some of the distress inks on the back. You can see it's kind of marbled looking, very pretty. And so there are lots of things in this cluster: homemade charm, stamped muslin, some fabric, vintage coffee dyed lace, and my little tag. In the back of these three pockets, again, the German dictionary. I have laminated on one side this little writing spot with some tea-dyed paper, stamping. It was meant to look like a celluloid notebook. They're old notebooks that people used to carry in their pocket, and they were covered with celluloid, which was like a plastic, I believe, and they could carry it with their little pencil hanging from the hole and have writing spots with them all the time. This one is the same, but I didn't add anything to the back. It is writing. There's a little, I think that's a little rub-on index card in the middle one. And the back one is a tea-dyed paint sample. A lot of oranges coloring. Really good tea dyeing on that one. I've just cut the top to make it look like a tag. Tea dyed paper. This one does have some stenciling on it. Lots of threads. See the stenciling around the edges. Tea dyed wax paper, or scrapbook paper with the three pockets. This one's made from corrugated cardboard and brown paper bags. The back has tea-dyed calculator tape. Look at the markings on it. Isn't it pretty? Little scrappy notebook there with a handmade charm and some really pretty fabric. The middle pocket has, this is printed on photo paper. You can write on the back. I've done some inking to distress it, make it look like an old photo. And in the front pocket, I made 2 specimen folders. I don't know that I'm happy with them. I made them probably too big for these, but I don't know that you really have a leaf in the front of your folder anyway, but I did distress them with the sanding block to make them look a little worn. The dark color one, I distressed the heck out of it, and it just wouldn't turn lighter. It is, if you hold it right, you can see that it's a little lighter color, but that color is, man, it's soaked all the way through. So we done some stamping. This is a leaf, beautiful autumn leaf that I got from my area. Inside is some faux ledger. I've distressed it. This one is a really pretty maple leaf. Oh gosh. But I thought the colors went really well with this journal because they have a lot of, there you can see it really good. See, the colors kind of match this folder. And this maple leaf is absolutely beautiful. It really is pretty. Same thing on the inside. I put faux ledger, lots of writing spot. You can see more where I wore this one, made this one look worn. This one's harder to see. And those are just tucked in the bottom pocket. On this side, I have another cluster, and I have a rusted bottle cap. and an embossed popsicle stick. If you can tell, it's been embossed. An embossed popsicle stick that I've also used distress inks on. And I just thought that the popsicle stick went with my bottle cap because I think I mentioned it before. I always think of root beer floats around this time of the year, even though I don't like them, whatever. So here you have your popsicle and your bottle cap. I love it. So cute. Did you know you could emboss popsicle sticks? That's kind of cool, isn't it? The other half of the photo holder, onion skin paper, rag book paper, our interactive flip, and the other side of our vintage journal page. In this pocket, I have put some tickets that came with the scrapbook kit, the papers, these papers. It's part of that little brown paper bag ruffle. And here's the back side of that railroad bond. More stamping. Shaskin and Company, New York, New York. I wonder what this one says on the other side. Doesn't really say any more places, does it? North American Railroad. That's just so cool to me. And this scrapbook paper has a rusted paper clip, a little heart. This is junk mail envelope. I think I have a video where I created this little fella. I named him Watson. Yes, it was Watson. Lots of good writing spots, and I have some distress tape on the back. Ooh, the other side of that vintage onion skin, the coffee dyed paper, the jelly plate paper, scrapbook paper. Isn't that watercolor beautiful? It just looks like watercolor. It's very pretty. It's not. It's scrapbook paper. Tea dyed paper that's been stenciled. The back of our acetate, our dashboard. And in the back, I'm going to leave my hand here where it's not real shiny. I have another fabric that's been embossed to a tea-dyed file folder. And again, there's pumpkins in it, but you probably can, there you can see the embossed pumpkins. And it says pumpkin patch. Really pretty pocket. And this came with the scrapbook kit as well. It's a faux postcard. And those are just tucked in the back. And again, this material is so soft. And here is the back. And that is my autumn journal. I hope you like it. It was so much fun to make. There's so many vintage antique goodies in this little book. I love this book. It's all about the paper for me. Okay, those are my journals. I hope that you like them. I hope you maybe were inspired by some ideas in them. Not the thread that doesn't come with them. And the December dailies. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you next time. Bye.